Can a leader ignore the idea of rapid urbanization just to tidy up the streets?
Environmental Affairs and Tourism found that 87% of municipalities lacked the capacity and infrastructure to pursue waste minimization services.
There's a significant difference between making empty promises and taking action. Many African leaders pledge to bring change, yet they often fall short. The reality is that true change doesn't happen overnight. It's wiser to focus on what is within your control. Instead of waiting for advanced technology, you can make meaningful progress with the resources you have to improve your country. And that's exactly what Traore did. He prioritized a clean Burkina Faso over lofty dreams of a fully developed nation that would take years to realize. He didn't abandon the long-term vision, but rather he chose to tackle things step by step, starting with what he could accomplish immediately. But is this approach really that significant? Let's find out. What happens when a leader decides to break free from the chains of Western expectations and take matters into his own hands? The answer lies in the streets of Burkina Faso, where a revolution in waste management is happening. While Western powers love to preach about environmental responsibility, they often sideline the very nations they claim to help. Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traore, has chosen a different path, one that prioritizes the dignity and health of his people over the approval of the so-called developed world. He's tackling waste management head-on, not with empty promises, but with concrete actions that are transforming his nation from the ground up. But first, let's take a closer look at the core question. Why is waste management such a big deal in a country like Burkina Faso? Waste management is often overlooked as a mundane issue, but in a country like Burkina Faso, it's important. Waste is not just an environmental issue. It's a public health crisis, an economic burden, and a social justice concern all rolled into one. In many African cities, waste accumulates at an alarming rate, turning once vibrant communities into breeding grounds for disease and despair. The problem isn't just an eyesore, it's a public health crisis waiting to explode. Consider this. In a densely populated city like Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, improperly managed waste can lead to the spread of diseases like malaria, cholera, and other waterborne illnesses. These are not just statistics. They are the lived realities of millions of people who suffer the consequences of governmental neglect. The health impacts of poor waste management are severe, with children and the elderly being the most vulnerable. Yet, while Western nations often push for environmental reforms globally, they conveniently ignore the waste they export to poorer countries. The global waste trade, which sees tons of toxic waste shipped from developed nations to the global south, is a glaring example of this hypocrisy. Burkina Faso, like many other African nations, has been on the receiving end of this environmental injustice. The West has long treated Africa as its dumping ground, offloading not just physical waste, but also the burden of managing it. This is where Ibrahim Traore's approach becomes revolutionary. He is not just addressing the visible filth on the streets, but the systemic issues that allow such neglect to persist. His waste management initiative is about more than just clean streets. It's about reclaiming the dignity of Burkina Faso's people. Traore understands that a clean environment is a fundamental human right, not a luxury. By prioritizing waste management, he is making a bold statement. Burkina Faso will no longer be the dumping ground of the West. It will be a nation that takes pride in its environment and the well-being of its citizens. But the implications of this initiative go even deeper. Clean streets and well-managed waste systems contribute to a healthier population, which in turn boosts productivity and economic growth. Tourists are more likely to visit a country where they don't have to wade through garbage, and businesses are more likely to invest in a stable, clean environment. By focusing on waste management, Traore is laying the groundwork for a stronger, more resilient economy. Additionally, waste management is linked to social justice. In many African cities, it is the poorest neighborhoods that suffer the most from poor waste management. These communities are often located near dump sites, where toxic fumes and leachate from decomposing waste contaminate the air and water. The residents of these areas are typically marginalized and lack the political clout to demand better services. Traore's initiative is addressing this imbalance by ensuring that waste management services reach all parts of the city, not just the wealthy or politically connected areas. This is not just about cleaning up the streets, it's about ensuring that all citizens, regardless of their socioeconomic status, have the right to live in a clean and healthy environment. As we talk further, the question arises, why hasn't waste management been a priority in Africa before? What has held back other nations from following a similar path? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The neglect of waste management in Africa is not accidental. It's the result of decades of misplaced priorities and external influence. For years, African leaders have been pressured to focus on projects that please their Western benefactors, often at the expense of their people. The West, with its self-proclaimed environmental superiority, has turned a blind eye to the mountains of waste it exports to Africa, leaving the continent to deal with the fallout. Western nations, under the guise of development aid, have historically pushed African governments to invest in high-profile projects that align with Western interests rather than the immediate needs of African citizens. Think infrastructure projects that make for good headlines, new highways, flashy airports, and towering skyscrapers, while the waste that clogs the streets and the health crises that stem from it are conveniently ignored. These projects, while not without their benefits, often overshadow more pressing issues like waste management, which lacks the glamour and political capital that come with infrastructure deals. Moreover, waste management doesn't have the same immediate visibility as other issues. While the effects of poor waste management are long-term and insidious, the benefits of a new airport or highway are immediate and visible. Politicians, eager to show quick wins and secure their positions, are naturally drawn to the latter. This short-sightedness, often encouraged by Western advisors and consultants, has left critical areas like waste management underfunded and undervalued. Another factor at play is the West's role in perpetuating waste management problems in Africa. Through international agreements that are skewed in their favor, Western countries have been able to legally export their waste to African nations. This has created a situation where Africa not only has to deal with its waste, but also with the waste of wealthier nations. The irony is stark. While Western nations lecture Africa on environmental stewardship, they offload their environmental problems onto the continent. Furthermore, Western environmental NGOs, while often well-intentioned, can sometimes exacerbate the problem. By focusing on their agendas, such as wildlife conservation or climate change, they can divert attention and resources away from the less glamorous, but equally critical issue of waste management. These organizations, funded by Western donors, often push for initiatives that reflect Western priorities rather than the immediate needs of African communities. The result? Waste management remains on the back burner, and the cycle of neglect continues. Another aspect of this neglect is the historical context of African urbanization. Rapid urbanization in many African countries has outpaced the development of infrastructure, including waste management systems. Cities that were once small towns have ballooned into megacities, with populations that far exceed their original capacity. This rapid growth has created a situation where the existing infrastructure is overwhelmed, and governments struggle to keep up with the demand for services. In this context, waste management has often been treated as an afterthought, something to be dealt with once the more visible issues like roads and housing have been addressed. Moreover, the influence of colonialism cannot be overlooked. Many African countries inherited urban planning and governance structures from their colonial rulers that were designed to serve a small elite, not the broader population. This legacy has contributed to the uneven distribution of services, with wealthier areas receiving more attention and resources than poorer ones. Waste management, being a service that primarily benefits the public at large, has often been neglected in favor of projects that serve the interests of the elite. Traore's initiative is a direct challenge to this status quo. By prioritizing waste management, he is rejecting the notion that African nations must conform to Western expectations. He is saying, loud and clear, that the health and well-being of his people come first. This is not just about clean streets, it's about reclaiming control over Burkina Faso's future and refusing to be shackled by the West's distorted priorities. This brings us to another pressing question. How is Traore's initiative different from the typical Western-backed environmental programs we've seen in Africa? Western-backed environmental programs in Africa often come with a heavy dose of paternalism. They're designed to make donors feel good while imposing Western values and solutions on African soil. These programs are typically top-down, with little regard for the specific needs and realities of the communities they're supposed to help. They're more about optics than outcomes, more about keeping up appearances than achieving real, sustainable change. These programs often follow a one-size-fits-all approach, applying solutions that may work in Western contexts but fail to address the unique challenges faced by African nations. For example, Western countries may push for recycling programs without considering the lack of infrastructure to support such initiatives in many African cities. Or they might advocate for high-tech waste processing facilities that are too expensive to build and maintain, diverting resources away from more practical and immediate solutions. Moreover, these programs are often tied to Western funding, which comes with strings attached. African governments are pressured to adopt policies and practices that align with Western interests, even if they are not the most effective solutions for their specific context. This creates a dependency on Western aid and expertise, undermining the development of local solutions and capacity. It also perpetuates the narrative that Africa cannot solve its problems without outside help. In contrast, Traore's initiative is rooted in the local context. It's not about pleasing foreign donors or ticking boxes on an international checklist. It's about addressing a problem that directly impacts the daily lives of his people. By focusing on waste management, Traore is not only improving public health, but also empowering his nation to stand on its own. This isn't just an environmental initiative. It's a statement of independence, a declaration that Burkina Faso doesn't need to follow the West's script to succeed. Traore's approach is grounded in practicality and sustainability. He is investing in solutions that are appropriate for Burkina Faso's current needs and resources. This includes purchasing waste management vehicles that can navigate the narrow streets of Ouagadougou, setting up collection points that are accessible to all residents, and implementing education campaigns to change public attitudes towards waste. These are simple, effective solutions that don't require massive amounts of foreign aid or expertise, just a commitment to getting the job done. Furthermore, Traore's initiative is inclusive. Instead of imposing a top-down solution, he is involving local communities in the process. This includes engaging with residents, local businesses, and community leaders to develop waste management strategies that work for everyone. By giving people a say in how their communities are managed, Traore is fostering a sense of ownership and responsibility. This is in stark contrast to Western-backed programs that often exclude local voices and impose solutions from above. Traore's waste management initiative is also about more than just cleaning up the streets. It's about changing the way people think about their environment. He is leading by example, showing that waste management is not just the responsibility of the government, but of every citizen. This is a powerful message that challenges the passive, defeatist attitudes that have taken root in many African communities after years of neglect and exploitation. In addition, Traore's approach is scalable and adaptable. While Burkina Faso is the starting point, the principles behind his initiative can be applied across the continent. The focus on local solutions, community involvement, and practical, sustainable practices makes it a model that can be replicated in other African countries facing similar challenges. Traore is not just solving Burkina Faso's waste problem. He's creating a template for African-led development that prioritizes local needs and empowers communities. As Traore's program gains momentum, it prompts us to ask, what are the broader implications of this initiative for Burkina Faso and the continent as a whole? Traore's waste management initiative is more than just a cleanup campaign. It's a blueprint for African self-determination. By taking control of such a critical issue, Traore is setting a powerful example for other African nations. He's showing that it's possible to prioritize the well-being of your people without relying on Western handouts or approval. This kind of leadership challenges the status quo and could inspire a wave of similar initiatives across the continent. The broader implications of Traore's initiative extend beyond Burkina Faso's borders. It challenges the narrative that African nations are incapable of solving their problems without Western intervention. By addressing a critical issue like waste management on his terms, Traore is demonstrating that Africa can chart its development path, one that is rooted in local realities and priorities. This initiative also has the potential to shift the balance of power between Africa and the West. For too long, African nations have been treated as passive recipients of Western aid and expertise. Traore's initiative is a powerful assertion of African agency, showing that African leaders can take the lead in solving their problems. This could inspire other African nations to follow suit, leading to a more balanced and equitable relationship between Africa and the rest of the world. Moreover, Traore's initiative is a reminder that development is not just about economic growth or infrastructure projects. It's about improving the quality of life for ordinary people. By focusing on waste management, Traore is addressing a fundamental issue that affects the health, well-being, and dignity of his people. This is a powerful message that challenges the dominant development paradigm, which often prioritizes flashy projects over the needs of ordinary citizens. The success of Traore's initiative could also have significant environmental implications for the continent. By improving waste management, Burkina Faso can reduce the environmental impact of improperly disposed waste, including air and water pollution. This is especially important in the context of climate change, where African nations are already bearing the brunt of the environmental crisis caused by the industrialized world. Traore's initiative shows that African nations can take proactive steps to protect their environment, even in the face of global challenges. Furthermore, Traore's initiative could inspire a new generation of African leaders who prioritize the needs of their people over the demands of external powers. This is the kind of leadership that Africa needs, leaders who are not afraid to challenge the status quo, and who are willing to make the tough decisions that will improve the lives of their people, even if it means going against the grain. Traore's initiative also has the potential to strengthen regional cooperation on environmental issues. Waste management is a challenge that transcends national borders, and effective solutions will require collaboration among neighboring countries. Traore's leadership could catalyze greater regional cooperation, with Burkina Faso taking the lead in promoting sustainable waste management practices across West Africa. This could lead to the development of regional frameworks and agreements that facilitate the sharing of resources, expertise, and best practices, ultimately benefiting the entire continent. Additionally, Traore's approach could have positive economic implications for Burkina Faso and the broader region. By investing in waste management infrastructure and services, the government is creating jobs and stimulating economic activity. This includes not only the direct employment of waste management workers, but also the development of related industries, such as recycling and waste processing. These industries have the potential to create new opportunities for entrepreneurship and innovation, contributing to economic diversification and resilience. But what does this mean for the future? Can Traore's approach be sustained, and will it inspire others to follow suit? The sustainability of Traore's initiative will depend on several factors, including continued political will, public support, and adequate resources. While the initial results are promising, the long-term success of the program will require a commitment to ongoing investment and innovation. Traore's leadership has set the stage, but it will be up to the people of Burkina Faso to carry the torch forward. One of the key challenges will be maintaining the momentum of the initiative. Waste management is not a one-time fix. It requires ongoing effort and investment. This means that the government will need to continue prioritizing waste management, even as other issues compete for attention. Traore's leadership will be crucial in keeping waste management on the national agenda, but it will also require the support of other leaders, civil society, and the general public. Public support will be essential for the sustainability of the initiative. Waste management is not just the responsibility of the government. It requires the active participation of all citizens. This means that the government will need to continue educating the public about the importance of waste management and encouraging them to take an active role in keeping their communities clean. This will require a sustained effort, including public awareness campaigns, community engagement, and enforcement of waste management regulations. Adequate resources will also be crucial for the sustainability of the initiative. Waste management is an expensive undertaking, requiring investment in infrastructure, equipment, and personnel. The government will need to ensure that sufficient resources are allocated to waste management, even as other priorities compete for funding. This will require careful planning and budgeting, as well as the ability to mobilize additional resources from both domestic and international sources. Another challenge will be ensuring that the initiative remains inclusive and equitable. Waste management is a public service that should benefit all citizens, regardless of their income or social status. The government will need to ensure that waste management services are accessible to all, including those living in informal settlements and rural areas. This will require a commitment to social equity and the willingness to address the needs of the most vulnerable members of society. Traore's initiative also has the potential to inspire a new wave of African leadership. By prioritizing the needs of his people over the demands of external powers, Traore is setting a powerful example for other African leaders. This is the kind of leadership that Africa needs, leaders who are not afraid to challenge the status quo and who are willing to make the tough decisions that will improve the lives of their people, even if it means going against the grain. The success of Traore's initiative could inspire other African leaders to take a more proactive approach to waste management and other critical issues. This could lead to a new era of African leadership, where leaders prioritize the needs of their people over the demands of external powers. This is the kind of leadership that will be necessary to address the many challenges facing the continent, from poverty and inequality to climate change and environmental degradation. Furthermore, Traore's initiative could serve as a model for other sectors beyond waste management. The principles of local ownership, community involvement, and practical solutions can be applied to a wide range of issues, from healthcare and education to infrastructure and economic development. By demonstrating that it is possible to achieve meaningful progress without relying on Western models or approval, Traore is paving the way for a new approach to development that is truly African-led. In addition, Traore's initiative could have broader geopolitical implications. As Burkina Faso demonstrates its ability to tackle complex challenges independently, it could gain greater influence on the global stage. This could lead to a shift in the dynamics of international relations, with African nations asserting their sovereignty and demanding greater respect and equality in global decision-making processes. Traore's waste management initiative is more than just a local success story. It's a challenge to the global order. It's a reminder that Africa doesn't need to wait for the West to solve its problems because the solutions are already within reach. By focusing on what truly matters, clean streets, healthy citizens, and a sustainable future, Traore is leading Burkina Faso into a new era of self-reliance and dignity. And in doing so, he's showing the world that Africa is not just a continent of potential, but a continent of power. Do you think Traore believes in making practical changes rather than making shallow promises? What would happen if such steps are continuously taken? Let us know in the comments section. Will Africa change like this? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.